This is the Louie T Network. Hey, either you're outside or you're
in the lab room.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome. You are in the lab room. Of course, I am your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. Week number 15 in the National Football League. Seattle Seahawks at home taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This game has lost its luster. When this schedule came out, man, I was licking my chops at the prospects of the Seahawks and the 49ers throwing down 2 times in a span of 3 weeks. That Thanksgiving game was going to be a doozy. And then to follow it up with this one here in Seattle late in the season, you're thinking that's probably going to be for the division lead and a chance to really do some damage in the NFC standings. Not quite what we thought it was going to be when the season was, or schedule was released, but Seattle's done their part. Coming into the game at 9-4, golden opportunity for them to get to double-digit wins on the season. And meanwhile, San Francisco came into this game at 7-6. Playoff hopes on life support. If you ask me, their playoff hopes ended last week in Alameda, California against the Raiders in the O.Co Battle of the Bay. But yeah, you know, statistically speaking, mathematically speaking, they were still alive, but they were dead. But still, they had hope. And in order for their season to continue, they needed to win this game against their most hated rivals in the Seattle Seahawks, in a place that has been a house of horrors for them over the life of the Jim Harbaugh tenure in San Francisco, Seattle, CenturyLink Field. Hard to see them getting a W there, but anything's possible in the National Football League, especially when it's 2 hated family members going after some family business. All bets are off. Let's jump into this one. We start in the second quarter where the action started to pick up. Seahawks already on the board with a field goal, 3-0. Niners get into an offensive rhythm by the use of the ground game. Hey, go figure. Who would have ever guessed the 49ers getting into an offensive rhythm with the ground game? Too bad their offensive coordinator didn't understand that premise when his team actually still had a chance. But either way, Carlos Hyde, who I thought should have been integrated into this offense much better than he has been this season. I think there has not been enough attempts for him on the ground. There hasn't been enough attempts for anybody on the ground, let alone the young fella. He should have been more of a focal point of this offense than he was. And I thought he got some really good carries early on in this game, did some good things, had some big runs, had a really big run on the first or second possession of the game. Then he had a nice little like 12 or 13 yard run on this possession that led to helped lead to a touchdown. He had Gore with some nice runs, and Cap completes an 18-yarder to Quan on 3rd and 11. And finally on 4th and 1, look, you're 7-6, season's on the line, no time to be cute here or try to be technically or fundamentally sound when it comes to making decisions on whether to go for it on 4th and 1 or not. You got nothing to lose. Kiss the dice, rolling to hope something comes up nice. 49ers do exactly that. The offensive line takes care of business. Frank Gore does what he does, picks his way through the mess and the garbage, finds daylight, gets into the end zone 12 yards later, 7-0, or 7-3, excuse me, San Francisco on top. And to me, that's San Francisco 49ers football right there. At the end of the first quarter, 49ers already had 64 yards rushing. And I think the Seahawks had given up something like, I don't know, 70-something yards a game, 80-something yards a game on the ground. They already had 64 rushing in the first quarter. I think they might have had 69 total in the Thanksgiving matchup. So to see them rushing the football as effectively as they were early in this game, it's a testament to not only the offensive line and the focus that they came into this game with, but Greg Roman giving them an opportunity to be the aggressors. When you pass block, you're on your heels. You're taking shots. You're allowing the defense to dictate to you what's going on. When you're run blocking, you're the aggressor. You're getting off the ball. You're getting off the line of scrimmage, and you're changing the line of scrimmage and moving it forward. And so 49ers did what they did best in this game, or at least early in this game at 7-3. Niners on top. Both teams with promising second quarter drives that end in nothing because of mistakes, whether it be sacks or penalties. For the Seahawks, huge to answer that touchdown. Russell Wilson throws, I'm talking about the first play from scrimmage after this touchdown was scored by the 49ers. Russell Wilson stands in a pocket in the face of pressure, stares down the gun barrel, delivers a beautiful 47-yard strike to Jermaine Kearse, who makes an excellent catch in coverage. I mean, Paris Cox is draped all over him on this particular play. He still comes down with the football. Great catch by Jermaine Kearse. He was big on this drive, had another catch for a first down, but ultimately drive stalls out as the Seahawks have a penalty and a sack on consecutive plays, pushes them out of field goal range. They have to punt the football. Then you got the 49ers who do the same thing. They move it down the field, matriculate it, have a little bit of offensive rhythm going, and then Cap takes 2 consecutive sacks, pushes them out of scoring range. And so second half was filled with drives with promise, but no points for either one of these teams. Then the Seahawks get something going right before the half. They're moving it down the field. Russell Wilson running that read option to perfection as only he can. They get down to around the 35 or so yard line. Then they get a little bit closer, more like the 25, 15-yard line in great Stephen Hauschka field goal range. Right before the half, you're thinking, Dave, just don't make any mistakes here. Don't take a sack. And we're going to get something out of this going into the halftime break. Instead, Russell Wilson with a rare, terrible decision and throw. Actually, the decision wasn't bad, but given the circumstance, Seahawks with no timeouts, 8 seconds left on the clock. You run all verticals. You run 4 verts. To throw the football in the middle of the field to the receiver, if Doug Baldwin doesn't catch that and get in the end zone, you're not getting any points. So it was a bad decision. And to compound matters and make them worse, it was an even worse throw. Air mails it right to the safety, Eric Reed, who picks it off. And he should have scored on this play. I blame the convoy of San Francisco 49er blockers. Shame on them. Shame on them for allowing Russell Wilson to be the last man in the picture, to be the one to make the tackle. And good hustle. Let me give some credit where credit is due. Great hustle by Russell Wilson for getting into play, saying, hey, I made the mistake. This is my fault. I need to clean up my mess. But you got Borland and company over there, and literally, Russell Wilson tosses Chris Borland out of the damn way and makes the tackle. Shame on Chris Borland. Shame on that convoy. The first person you should be looking for on an interception is the quarterback. Everybody knows that. That's a rule. You knock his block off immediately. Immediately. Not immediately. Immediately. And they let him go and make the tackle. That should have been a dagger. Right before the half. 90-yard touchdown, interception return. Could have changed the whole tide and complexion of the game. Instead, it's like a 75-yard interception return that looks pretty but counts for nothing as you go to the halftime break 7-3. Come out to the third quarter, Seahawks embark on a 10-play, 60-yard touchdown drive in which beast mode Marshawn Lynch accounts for 40 yards of the 60 on that possession, including a touchdown, 5-yard touchdown run into the end zone. And so that makes it 10-7. Seattle taking their second lead of the game at 10-7. We go to the fourth quarter, and you know, San Francisco doesn't score points in the second half. That's why that interception return was going to be so huge, because if they could have gotten that right before the half, at least you got 14 going into the second half, because chances are you're not going to score any points in the second half. It's been that way all season. Seattle's one of the best defensive teams you've seen all year. Don't think that's going to change that much in this game. So you needed to get something on that interception. You didn't. So that's why that to me was so huge, because you don't score points. First of all, you don't score a lot of points, period. Now you're going into the second half, which is even worse. That's a double whammy for you. You don't score points, in the totality of the game, you don't score points in the second half of games, which is why you don't score points in the whole game that much. So you had to know that Seattle was going to have an opportunity to do some things, make a power move in this game and separate from the 49ers because they just weren't going to score many more points. They had 7. They'd be lucky to get to 10. 13 would be a stretch. If they scored anything over 13, they were going to throw a ticker-tape parade out in Santa Clara. So you knew that it was going to be tough for them to get to, 14, 17. Hell, look, let's not talk crazy, folks, and talk about 20 points possibly being scored by this 49ers offense, okay? That would require a borderline miracle for that to happen. So I do want to say this, though. There was a horrendous call on Nick Moody. They talked about it a lot on the telecast between Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. I think they went over it at least 4 or 5 times, showed the replay at least 6 or 7 times. They were right. They called in Mike Pereira, ex-head of the officiating staff, and he said the same thing. He echoed their sentiments. Terrible call. I thought it was a terrible call. I saw it live. I thought it was a good hit. They showed the replay. I thought it was an even better hit. And for them to make that call, I hate when the officials do things like this. You're taking the actual outcome out of the players' hands and handing it to the officials. Don't do that. Don't take away the 49ers. Look, they're struggling. They need all the help. Look, the Seattle Seahawks are good enough on their own. They don't need your help. They don't need you to give them an extra set of downs. That was 3rd down, was going to be 4th down on the incompletion. They were going to have to attempt a field goal with some distance on it. Who knows if Stephen Hauschka knocks it home or not. They're struggling to score. Again, a field goal keeps them within striking distance in this game at 13-7. A touchdown still gives them a chance to win. Whereas they give up a touchdown in this possession, they go down by 10, 17-7. They're done. They're not scoring 10 points in the second half. So to have this egregious call on a personal foul, and again, no crown in the helmet. It wasn't late. There was nothing egregious about this. He didn't pick him up, slam him, none of that. This is just a solid, this is exactly the way you draw it up. You want the face mask of the defender squarely in the chest of the quarterback. He didn't dip his head in any of it. It was just a textbook tackle. And they called him for a penalty. I mean, if I'm the league, an apology isn't good enough. Here, I don't want you to tell me, hey, I'm sorry, we messed up on that one. That was a bad call. Because that's not going to do anything for me in terms of win or loss. You impacted this game greatly because a few plays later, P. Rich is in the end zone for his first career touchdown. Congratulations to Paul Richardson for his first touchdown grab, as Russell Wilson and his offense make the 49ers pay for that egregious call that the officials made. It's now 17-7. And with injuries to Frank Gore, he had a concussion on a block on Bobby Wagner. He knocked himself out. And then you got the young fella, Carlos Hyde, going out with an ankle injury. He got bent back awkwardly on a tackle. And so he left the game. Once upon a time, remember when the running back position for the 49ers was so rich? You Kendall Hunter, you had Carlos Hyde, you had Gore, LaMichael James. You still had Lattimore. Was he going to play? Wasn't he going to play? Remember when this team was 5 deep at running back and they were reduced to some no-name guy off the pine once those guys went down in this game? I don't even know his name. That's how low level this cat was. And they found themselves in 4th and 1 twice on this possession. They had to have it on this possession. They ate up about 6 minutes of the clock with this possession. They pick up the first 4th and 1 with a Miller fullback dive. But you can't go to the well but once so many times. And they went to the well again, 4th and 1, another fullback dive to Bruce Miller. This time, Seahawks say, access denied. And that was basically all she wrote in this game, as the Seahawks are able to eat up the rest of the clock and win 17-7. Can't really say that I'm surprised by the outcome of this game. 49ers had a spirited effort. They looked like a team that really wanted to win this game. They just didn't have enough bullets in the gun. And that's been the story of the 49ers all season long. Not enough offensive bullets in the gun all season long. Defense did what they've done all year long. Played well enough to win, gave the team a chance, but the offense never has enough bullets in the chamber nor the clip. And so 49ers go down 17-7. Seahawks, not only do they get their double-digit win at 10 on the season, but now they set up a huge matchup next week on the road versus the Arizona Cardinals. That game is for the division lead, and if they can get that win the following week with their season closer at home versus the St. Louis Rams, they will be your NFC West division champions for the second consecutive season. Impressive, very impressive by the Seahawks defense, who continues to dominate down the stretch. They're getting hot at the right time. Offense still has some things to tweak and get better, but again, with the way the defense is playing, just get out of the way. Don't make mistakes. Don't cost us games like Russell Wilson almost did with that pick before the half. Just do the things that you've done to get us here, and we'll be fine, and that's what they continue to do. 17-7 is your final score for the 49ers. They're 7-7 now. We all know the writing's on the wall. Jim Harbaugh is just coaching out the rest of the season, and then changes will be made. Will he be traded? Will he be fired? Who knows? One thing's for sure, it was a hell of a run in San Francisco for Jim Harbaugh as San Francisco 49ers head coach. That's going to do it for 49ers at Seahawks. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as I've got plenty more games to break down in week number 15 in the National Football League. See you in a bit.